Hi, welcome back to On Location with Mr. Gupton. This time the location is the classroom where I'm going to show you how to multiply with decimals. Now, I don't know many people that really enjoy multiplying with decimals. However, we're going to show you step by step on how to do this and specifically where to put the decimal and why we put it in that certain spot. So for this problem, we are going to do the standard algorithm, the standard way to multiply. This is the way that most people do it, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandma, grandpas, whoever is trying to help you with your math work. This is the way that most people will solve this problem. So I've got 14 3/10 times 7 2/10. It's very important to use the proper terminology. We have one number after the decimal, so it's in the tenths place. I know a lot of people will say 14.3 times 7.2. They'll use the word point, but the reason why I am using the vocabulary is because at the end of this, where we place the decimal, we're going to bring back that vocabulary, and hopefully that will help you figure out where to properly put the decimal spot. So here we go. Let's go through this step by step. Let's go 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. And then 2 times 1 is 2. Now, I am all done multiplying the ones, that value in the ones place. Now, if I had taken out the decimals, and just multiplied it, that's what the problem would look like. So if that helps you, take those decimals out. That way you can figure out a strategy to multiply these numbers. And then at the end, we're going to put the decimals back in. So don't worry. So here we go. We're going to move on to the tens place. Now, I'm going to use a different color because with all of these ovals, it might look a little overwhelming. So here we go. I'm going to go 7 times 3. 7 times 3 is 21. I'm going to put the 2 up there. 7 times 4 is 28. Plus 2 is 30. I'm going to put the 3 up there. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. Now, if this helps you when you're doing your math work, if this helps you to use different colors, please, by all means, do it that way. Maybe you have a set of colored pencils that you can use just so you can kind of separate it out. In other videos, I did show you how you could break apart these 3 digits with these 2 digits to kind of make it look a little bit more organized than all of this mumbo-jumbo mess that I just made. So here comes the last step. I'm going to add up these numbers just like this. Now, where do I put the decimal? This is where I'm going to bring back that vocabulary. If I go back to the original problem, which was 14 3/10, 7 2/10, a lot of teachers will just automatically jump to the shortcut. And what I mean by the shortcut is this. They're going to ask you, how many numbers, how many digits are after the decimal spot? So you have 1 up here, and you have 1 there. So you actually have 2 digits after the decimals. And what teachers will do is they'll just jump to the shortcut. They'll put the decimal here, and they go, oh, there's 2 digits after the decimal. So I'm going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the right, to the left, sorry. I'm going to move the decimal 2 spaces to the left, 2 place values to the left. Now the question is, why do we do that? Why do we always move it to the left, and how did we know how many times to move it? Well, here's where that vocabulary comes back into place. I had one number after the decimal, so that's my tenths place. I had another number after the decimal in a tenths place. Now just think to yourself, a tenth times a tenth is 100. Just like 10 times 10 is 100. A tenth times a tenth is 100th. And so if I look at my answer, here is my tenths. And here is my hundredths. So that's the reason why we do it. That's why we place the decimal in that certain spot, because we are basically trying to figure out where it goes. Well, if you remember, tenth times a tenth is 100th. This, if I look at my final answer, I've got 96 hundredths. So therefore, that's why the decimal went right there in that spot. I know a lot of teachers, maybe some adults, will just jump to the shortcut and go, oh, there's 2 digits after the decimal, so I'm going to move the decimal 2 place values to the left. The reason behind it is a tenth times a tenth is 100th. Now, if I'm doing another problem, let's just pretend I have this problem, 7 86 hundredths times 3 2 tenths. Make sure you use the proper terminology, because that's going to help me place the decimal in the proper spot. So let's just jump to the very end. I've got 2 digits after this decimal. I've got 1 digit after this decimal. Say to yourself, what is 100th times a tenth? It's just like 100 times 10. Well, 100 times 10 is 1,000. 100th times a tenth is 1,000th. So therefore, I'm going to have 3 place values after my decimal. My tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. So if I go through this problem very, very quickly, 6 times 2 is 12. I'm doing the standard algorithm once again. 8 times 2 is 16, plus the 1 up there, that's 17. So I'm just kind of going through this very quickly. 7 times 2 is 14, plus the 1 is 15. Now let's go to the tens place. 3 times 6 is 18. Put down the 1, carry the 10. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 1 is 25. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 2 is 23. Now, once I add up all of these numbers, 7 plus 8 is 15, carry the 1. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. If I keep going through this, I ask myself, oh no, where do I put the decimal? Well, if I go back to the beginning and I say 100th times a tenth is 1,000th, well, now just start going through my place value. I start asking myself, gee, if I put it here, I've got a tenth and 100th. I want 1,000th, so that's not going to work. But if I put it here, now I've got my tenths, I've got my hundredths, and now I've got my thousandth. And so that's where the decimal will go. And like I said, a lot of teachers will just jump straight to the shortcut. They'll jump straight to the shortcut. They might not tell you why they're doing it this way. But if you look, we've got 2 numbers here. We've got 1 number here. 2 plus 1 is 3. So I'm going to move the decimal 3 places to the left, 1, 2, 3. And so when you start multiplying with decimals, if that shortcut that teachers are showing you helps you, please feel free to use it. But the reason why we're moving it like we are is because we're actually doing some mental math, some very quick math with tens. We're multiplying 100th times a 10th to get 1,000th. And when I put out my place value, that's where the decimal goes. So good luck as you are multiplying decimals. The biggest mistake that kids make, even adults, is where exactly do I put this decimal? There is also one little way, one very quick way that can also help you even before you start the problem. Look at the whole numbers. Look at the numbers before the decimal. That will give you a good idea of where your answer should be. So if I look up here, I've got a 7 and a 3. Those are the numbers before the decimal. 7 times 3 is 21. So my answer, the numbers before the decimal, are going to be close to 21. 25 is really close to 21. So that kind of gives you an idea. If I had put the decimal in the wrong spot, I would have had like 251. Or I might have had 2 and blah, all after the decimal. So if I go back to the last problem, now of course that got really messy, a lot of real messy mumbo jumbo. But if I go back to 14 times 7, those are the numbers before the decimal. 4 times 7 is 28. Carry the 2. 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 2 is 9. I'm going to get an answer that is fairly close to 98. And if I look at my answer, 102 is actually really close to 98. So that's going to give us a really good idea of where our decimals should go. And just really quick, if you're like, wait, what? Huh? Let me show you very quickly just one last example, but let's just keep it simple. 3 6/10 times 1 2/10. Look at the numbers before the decimal. I've got a 3 and a 1. What's 3 times 1? 3. So my answer, my final answer, is going to be close to 3. It's going to be close to 3. So if I do this problem very quickly, the standard algorithm way, 6 times 2 is 12, put down the 2, carry the 1, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So I just got done doing all of this and all of this. Now let's go to my tens place. 1 times 6, 6. 1 times 3, 3. Let's add this up. 7 plus 6 is 13. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. How many numbers were after the decimal? I had 6/10 and 2/10. A 10th times a 10th is 100th. My answer is going to be close to 3. So if I put the decimal here, that's not close to 3. 43 is not close to 3. And also this says 2/10 when I know that I need hundredths. So if I place the decimal here, 4 is close to 3. 32 hundredths is what I was going for, because a 10th times a 10th is 100. And then if your teacher decides to do that little shortcut with decimals, we had one number and another number after the decimal. So we had 2 numbers, 2 digits after the decimal. So they would go like this, 2 spaces to the left, and there it is. So hopefully all of these little steps will help you as you multiply decimals. The first thing you should always do is ask yourself, gee, if I've got 6/10 and 2/10, a tenth times a tenth is 100. You're just using those powers of 10 to help you multiply. You might say, gee, I wonder where the decimal goes. Well, go through these steps. And then, of course, the last thing, just do some very quick math. Wait a second, those numbers before the decimal, that will give me a good idea of where my answer should be, or how close my answer should be. 3 times 1 was 3. 4 was in our final answer. That's very close to 3. So hopefully all of these little strategies will help you as you multiply numbers with decimals.